My name is Fahrid, Poursoltani. I'm the Director of Programs at EJTC, Electrical Joint Training Committee, and Mentorship Matters. EJTC is a training arm to IDW Local 213. So I'm an electrician by trade, 14 years electrician, 11 years in the field, and then I've been in the training center for the past few years. I'm going to give you a little background about the program, where it started from, why we started it, and then give you an update of where it is now, what it has morphed into, and we're so proud of it, and then I'll get into the presentation. About 8 years ago, Andy Clevin, our old director who recently retired, he noticed a massive gap in our local. We have about 5,000 electricians in our local, and many of them are people that are retiring in the next 5 or 10 years. And we have a new workforce, millennials like myself coming in. How do we make sure that the training is getting passed on? How do I make sure that Fahrid is giving the respect to those mentors of business skills in order for them to want to teach them? That was really the reality of it. That's what started Mentorship Matters when it first started. It was a much smaller program. As we got into it, we really noticed the importance of mentorship with safety, with productivity, quality, retention, and it became a lot bigger. And we found that the small idea we had was actually a lot more important than the original idea. So we built on it. We partnered up with a skill plan. We came up with this package program. What I'm excited about, this is actually Mentorship Matters 2.0. We just started the 2.0 version about 2 months ago. We built it up. We've done a lot more information around the program. I'll talk about that in a second in the workbooks. Now the program is offered all across Canada, United States. I've been to Maryland a couple of times to train the Bricklayers Union and the Finishing Trades Unions who are offering this through all their apprenticeship across the United States. We just recently got a budget from the federal government of Canada. They're supporting it nationally as well. So for the next 2 years, it proves to help the retention, safety, productivity, and quality. This will become a common thing through all apprenticeship in Canada. Washington State has been a big supporter of us. Sound Transit, City of Washington, Shayna, Construction Excellence supported us quite a bit. It's a program that's definitely needed right now in the market. It's the best place for it. I always joke around with our apprentices. I say Lululemon does mentorship, GM does mentorship, BMW does mentorship. Why shouldn't we do mentorship? Are we not important? Are we not professionals as electricians, plumbers, iron workers, whatever it is? It's important for us to understand that our work is important and we need to approach each other professionally to move forward. So that's where mentorship came from, and that's where it's going. The program I'm going to show you, it'll be a little bit of both, but what it includes, it has videos, discussions, and activities. 2 types of videos. You can have interviews with apprentices, mentors, contractors that talk about a specific point that we're trying to actually send as a message. And then the second type of video is actually demonstration, hands-on demonstration of apprentices. Lots of discussions. You don't want to hear me talk for 4 hours, so we make sure we have a lot of discussion points. We're going to have a lot of activities, hands-on activities to make a point. And then what we added to the 2.0, what I was trying to tell you, what I'm proud of, is we added a lot of tips and benefits, background information, and learning outcomes. So what that looks like is now, when you open the workbook, although I'm having trouble right now, you have a lot of information before you get to the skill. Then you go through the actual workbook, then you have a sheet that talks about tips and benefits. What that helps with is, if you're sitting in a classroom of 16, you don't really want to stand up and ask a question, you don't feel comfortable, not a problem. When you go home, most of the information that I've talked about would be in here. This will become a resource. The original book, it had a lot of white sheet space where you have to take notes, and if you're like me, you don't take good notes, then it wouldn't be really useful to you later on. So that's something we did. We made sure this is a resource. It's not just a workbook. You take it home, you can look into it. The details are in there. So let's get into the actual skills that the program covers. There's 2 sections to the program. There's communication and there's mentoring. Communication is designed for your first year, second year apprentices. Apprentices that have been on a job site 6 months, a year, have an idea what it's like on a job site, good and bad. They all have good mentors, bad mentors. They come into this classroom, they can relate, and then they can learn some tools. Mentoring is for your high-time apprentices, your journey persons, and your foremen. How to become a great mentor? You're all good at what you do on a job site. You're all good electricians, plumbers, iron workers, but can you teach what you know to somebody else? So let's teach you how to teach. That's the idea. So I'm going to break down the points of your teaching. The first slide you see here, 6 skills of apprentices, is this green book here for apprentices. Skill 1, effective communication. I'm standing here, I'm watching all of you. Most of you are making eye contact. Some of you are on your phone, that's okay. Some of you are looking at somewhere else, you're just tired, whatever it is. The ones that are making eye contact, that's a good start of effective communication. That's not complete. I don't know if you actually listen to me or not. What are you thinking about? So we talk about effective communication, the importance of two-way communication for a message to be relayed. And then skill 2, we tie it into active listening. Again, eye contact, nodding is a good way for me to know that you're listening to me. But I have no idea if you're conceptualizing what I'm saying. So then we ask our apprentices, from now on, we need you to paraphrase the information that you're getting back to me as a mentor. So let's step back for a second. Whenever we're good at something, we naturally tend to take that same task and only breaking it down to 3 steps instead of 100 steps. If I was, and this is from training I went to, it was amazing. I'll break it down like this. There's a professor that showed up, he's wearing a white dress shirt and tie. He brings a loaf of sliced bread, he has peanut butter and jelly right in front of him. And there's a room full of electricians and linemen. He said, you guys are going to teach me how to put peanut butter and jelly on this slice of bread. I never forget this. So we're all sitting there, like, okay, this seems really simple. One of the guys said, grab a slice of bread. He grabbed it and just ripped it open, there's bread flying everywhere. And we kind of get to the point at this point, he's saying, I don't know how to do it, you're supposed to teach me. Next guy goes, take the peanut butter jar, counterclockwise, open it up. So he does. Another person stands up, goes, put a little bit of peanut butter on a slice of bread. He shoves his hand in there, and this guy by the end, like this goes all the way to the end, but he had peanut butter jelly all over his shoes and his shirt. He was serious about what he was teaching. The fact that when we know something so well, we don't realize that it doesn't take many steps, there's many steps to it. So let's go back to paraphrasing. If I'm teaching you a task, and you paraphrase it back, and I notice right away by listening to you didn't quite get what I was trying to say, I can save you from doing something that has nothing to do with what I was asking you. How much more efficient would we be as a team? How much efficient would the apprentice be? How much more efficient would I be as a mentor? So that's the idea of active listening. We want to create a culture from now on that anytime I teach you something, you're going to paraphrase it back to me. The first time you'll be caught by surprise. The second time, you might get 50% of it. The third time, you know I'm going to call you out. So you're going to start speaking up. So again, changing the culture. Skill 3, asking questions. It's straightforward. We're saying ask proper questions. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But more importantly than that, how do we control the questions that are coming our way? There are 2 types of questions, closed questions and open questions. Closed questions simply require a yes and no answer. Open questions require dialogue, basically interview questions. And if you were to go up to your boss today and say, hey, from now on, Fahrid, you need to ask me open questions, he or she is going to look at you like, what the heck are you talking about? Get out of here. So what we're doing with our apprentices, we're saying, you're not going to change the person that's asking you the questions or the style of questions they're asking. They're busy, they don't think about their approach. It's up to you to change that question and open it up. So from now on, if somebody asks you a question, but the answer is simply yes or no, we want you to say yes and yes what. And we show them examples, we work on that. So let me give you a simple example of why that's really important. If I come up to one of you wonderful people here and say, have you used a harness before? You'll say yes. Are you certified? Yes. I passed you a harness, you go on to the 23rd floor and you hurt yourself. Then we do an investigation report. We find out, yes, you did use a harness a year and a half ago. Your certification is a year and a half old. If you, as the apprentice, would have said yes, but, yes, and, that would have given more information. I know some of you are thinking, what about the mentor? He should be doing better, job of assessing as well. That's the second portion. We'll chat about that. We want, remember, engagement from both sides. So again, we need our apprentices to get more involved. No more just yes and no. No more just nodding. Open up the question, give more details. Skill 4, by far, fairly important one, receiving feedback. My generation likes to blame the baby boomers and the Gen X, saying that they don't know how to give feedback. Their style of feedback is you can't do your job on a Friday. I don't yell at you, you got a better task. And if I talk to my 7-year-old dad, that's the way they got feedback in those times. It was just normal. They worked under that structure and they worked well. Those same people raised us. They didn't want us to go through the same stuff they went through, so they raised us differently. Constant feedback. So we do well with feedback. But anyway, that's not the point. What about our apprentices? You also need to learn how to receive feedback. You need to understand if somebody is going to come teach you, you need to drop what you're doing, give them the respect, body language, listen to what they have to say. Don't say, yeah, but, yeah. No, listen to what they have to say. Get the detailed information so you can move away. You can walk on to the next step, next task. Let's step back again. This program was designed to give an apprentice the tools they need to become the best apprentice in the next 4 or 5 years. To gain the most amount of knowledge in the next 4 or 5 years. That's the idea. The way the apprentice should be the training is, I want to learn something from everyone here. If they don't know how to give me feedback, I'm going to go get that feedback. Now, sometimes you have to be careful with this. We're not saying if you're getting bullied, if someone's being racist, sexist on site, you have to respect them, stand there and listen to them. That's not what we're saying. That's beyond this course. The course is saying if you're dealing with someone that's aggressive, that, you know, is giving you bad feedback, negative feedback constantly, or it's not giving you feedback and all this, shake your head and walk away, how do you figure out what you did wrong in order to get that task? So then we teach them how to get more information and build relationships with other people. So let me ask you a question. If you don't get along with anyone in the crew, who's the problem? You. Someone once in a while says them, but you know, usually it's you. You're the problem. If you don't get along with anybody else in your crew, you're the problem. Now, if you have a mentor that's naturally not approachable, they're just grumpy, that's just the way they are, that's okay. Get your detailed information, get your feedback from somebody else, build relationships on site. Your task should be that I want to learn as much as I can on this job site from these group of people and then move on. Skill 5, proactive learning. What we like to teach apprentices is that your red seal or your electrical or your plumbing ticket, whatever you call it, depending on province or state you're from, it's not enough. It doesn't mean you're done. You should stop learning. You should constantly educate yourself. Technology is constantly changing. You've probably heard lots of that today. The job site is constantly changing. Relationships are changing. The way we work with our contractors, with customers, those are all changing. You need to constantly stay on top of it. But beyond that, we want to focus on 3 things. And the 3 symbols you see there. Hands-on learning, auditory learning, and visual learning. What do you think all trade workers are good at when it comes to those 3 things? Hands-on learning. Most of them, not all, but most trade people that are in trades are hands-on learning. They enjoy working with their hands. So let's look at generational differences. What do you think the generational differences are between millennials and baby boomers when it comes to those symbols there? Visual learners versus auditory learners. I grew up on TVs and video games, whereas my dad grew up, until he was 13, on radio. So they learn differently. So why is that important? If I know I'm a hands-on visual person, I should pass that information along to my mentor. If they really want to teach, if they take value in mentoring, they might change their style, and to benefit me as a apprentice. That's what we want to do. Find out what your strengths are. Start engaging your mentors and tell them, hey, it's great you always tell me how to bend pipe, but can you show me or let me try it? Maybe show me the print instead of always telling me about the symbols. Get them engaged, get them to approach you differently. Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, I'm unlike you, I'm 30 years in the trade.
Yep.
It's not just the visual part of it, you're on job sites, and so the hearing for the audio part of it's really hard, so it's more visual for most people.
Good point.
And in those trades because of all the noise.
That's a great point. No, I appreciate that. That makes a whole lot of sense. I sometimes joke around with that. I say if I'm in a safety training session with a group of 20 people, I'm 5'7" on Mondays, by Friday I'm 5'6". I'll probably want to stand right in the front, not in the back. But it's the same idea. Know your environment and take advantage of it. Skill 6 is, I would say, by far the most important skill. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Maybe hopefully I'll relate to some of you. I got into the trade when I was 20. I went to university first because that's what my parents wanted me to do, because that was cultural. University is the only way to do it. I come from a white-collar family. Dad is an engineer, mom's a doctor. I couldn't do it. I went to university, and I'm openly telling you, sharing it with you, I flunked with 1.6 GPA. I don't even know if I went to class or if I did, if I was paying attention. It wasn't for me. And one summer, I'm working with a guy who was basically a GF, General Foreman, at the company my dad was working in. And I said, hey, I heard you guys hire drivers for your electrical crew. And that's how I got into the trade, through the non-union sector at first and then joined the union. And I don't know if I would go back and I would talk to myself 15, 14 years ago if I had any goals at the time. I know the first 2 years I wouldn't hire me at the moment if that was the apprentice. I don't think I showed up on time. I fell asleep at lunch. I can tell you lots of stories. And it wasn't for me, it didn't come around until about 2 years into the trade, and I realized I actually really enjoyed what I did, and this is my career, and I gotta figure my life, and I can sit there and talk about this forever. But, you know, I changed things around. But I look back and I go, man, if somebody talked about setting goals, who knows, maybe I would have engaged or listened. It would have really probably woken me up a lot earlier and given me a lot better directions. So we were trying to figure out internally, how do we figure out how to get our apprentices to become more respectful, to start being more responsible, to have a better attitude when they show up on the job site. You can tell them over and over and over again. You can tell them in the apprenticeship school. You can tell them on the job site. Their parents can tell them. But if they don't believe in it, they're not going to do it. We figured the only way we can think it's going to work, and this was, you know, the result of a lot of focus groups, talking to a lot of mentors, a lot of foremen, a lot of company owners, we came up with this idea, setting goals. Let's teach you how to take advantage of what you have for yourself in order to build a better life for yourself. What are your three-year goals? What are your 5-year goals? What are your 10-year goals? You heard those apprentices talk about it on the stage today. It was really interesting. Start thinking about that. Create a picture for yourself. What do you want from the next 5 years? What do you know about your trade? I promise you, most apprentices don't know much. They get their ticket, and then the best they know is I'll become a foreman. What about becoming an inspector? What about becoming a contractor? What about getting a second trade? I'm back in school trying to finish my bachelor's, and I tell our apprentices, did you know your red seal counts as a diploma, so now you can get, you know, you only need 60 credits to get your bachelor's. Some states have the same idea with their technical training. So those are the things that we start getting them to think about. We find a workforce where all your apprentices, not all, most of them have goals that tend to be more responsible. They tend to have better attitude. They're going to work safer. They're going to come up to you and engage you, learn from you, instead of you constantly have to try to reach out to them. So that's why we created that setting goals. And I actually added that to this presentation so we can go over some of that steps. The next one, this is really neat. 6 steps for mentoring. This is the orange book. This was designed for your high-term apprentices. This is designed for your journey persons and your foremen. I mentioned to you earlier, almost all, I should never say almost, all journey people, all electricians, all plumbers, and all the trades, they're good at what they do. They are. They know something, they're good at it. But none of them learn really how to teach. I know I didn't either. Some teach, they get frustrated easily. Some are naturally good teachers. Some talk forever, but they don't really know how to pass on the information. So what we did, we tried to come up with basically a lesson plan that you'll do in a classroom. You come up with a lesson plan for a set of skills. The idea isn't that you're going to go on a job site and do the same thing. The idea is when you go to a job site, you're going to start thinking on that structure. I'm going to break it down in this way, in this setting, and I'm going to explain that. Step 1, something we do quite well, identify the skill. What am I trying to teach you today? Let's talk about the safety portion. Let me create a structure and expectation for you, because let's step back. Again, this is just from studies. Millennials will do great, they will work hard for you, they're great troubleshooters, as long as you have a set of expectations for them. You need to let them know what the expectations, what the structure is, and they'll work really well under that. So again, step 2, the part that's really missing in most trades, link the lesson to a bigger picture. Let me quickly ask you a question. If today, me and you got in a debate about who won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, what is the first thing you're going to do?
Who was in it?
Google it. What did you say?
Who's in it?
Who's in it? Yeah. Google it. You're going to Google it, correct? That's usually what's going to happen. I was joking around with my dad. I'm like, what did you guys do 40 years ago? Go away to the library till the next day, open an encyclopedia. I don't know. But today, we can Google anything we want. That's the first step to answer our question. So guess what? Most of us now are engaged constantly with notifications and information. I got 2 phones, one for work, one for myself. And you know, you got your news apps, you got your social media apps, you got your emails, personal email, work email. Most people now have 2 or 3 emails. You're constantly getting information. I don't know about you, I like it. That's just my life. You know, some people don't know, that's not for everybody, but that's life. I do better engagement when I'm engaged. What we're telling our mentors, our apprentices have changed. You can't tell them to shut up and do what you're told. You get paid to do, I get paid to think. They don't respond well to that. Same reason why millennials only have a retention of 5 years on average at a job. That's a problem. We can point fingers like they do all the time. You can go, you do a lot of YouTube videos on that. That's not the way to deal with it. How are we going to mitigate that situation? We're not going to be like Silicon Valley and put turf fields, bring celebrities over. We just can't afford that. What we can do is we can make it so it's enjoyable to be on the job site. Where I look forward to work 40 hours with the rest of you or more. That's the idea. So link the skills. Start giving them more information. Who does your task affect? Let's talk about the customer. Let's talk about other trades. I talk about fire stopping quite often. Fire stopping seems really simple, and to an apprentice that doesn't understand the importance of it, they might not take it serious. They don't understand that you're compartmentalizing the gases in different areas, but just bigger than that. If you have an apprentice that's putting the fire stopping on sloppy and the inspector comes in and fails that, do they understand that now you held back the insulators, the drywallers, the mudders, the painters? Now everyone's going to be behind 3 days to a week. We need to get them involved. Make them understand the bigger picture. Now you can assess them. If the apprentice has only been on the job site for a month, okay, they don't need to know as much yet. They don't have enough information to conceptualize that. If the apprentice has been there a year, get them involved. Talk about the, anyway, I'll leave that alone for a second. What bothers me a lot is you show up on job sites, you talk to plumbers, electricians, and you ask them, what set of prints do you have to look at? And right away the electrician will say, electrical prints. What about architectural? No, I don't have to look at that. Oh, that's not right. What about mechanical? Why do I have to look at mechanical? That just, again, breakdown of communication. They don't understand the importance of the connection. Step 3, demonstrate the skill. Seems really simple, but it's not. We told the apprentices about hearing it, trying it, and seeing it, what's their capabilities, what works best for them. We want them to pass it on to their mentors. We're going to talk to the mentors about the same thing. Just because you learn by listening to people, it doesn't mean you're going to teach that 19-year-old by talking to them. They need to see it. You need to maybe draw it for them. Bring them the actual print. Show it to them. Start assessing the people you're working with. Not everyone learns the same way. And if you understand the value of teaching and mentoring, if you understand the short-term pain, the long-term gain for your crew, for your union, for your trade, then engage them that way. Start teaching them in that essence. Step 4, providing practice. Now this one we get a lot of pushback on. You're not saying create practice in a corner of a job site. That's never going to happen. We're just saying, quite often we say, you learn best when you make mistakes. You heard that before? You have to make mistakes to learn. But when it happens on a job site, we get frustrated. We see an apprentice doing something that takes you 10 minutes to do it in half an hour, you get frustrated, you jump in, you pull them off. Go deal with the material, I'll take care of this. You can't do that. Once you brought someone to a point where they know the task, you feel comfortable with their safety, give them a chance to fail. Let them work on their own. Give them feedback. Build their confidence. Create the conduit between you and your apprentices, you and your crew, where people can approach you and ask questions. Again, really short-term pain. I'll agree with that with everyone, but long-term gain. You can have a crew that will know how to do. They're confident. They trust you. They work harder for you. They work safer. You can focus on bigger, better things. Step 5, give them feedback. My boss just walked in here. How am I doing, Phil? Give them feedback. The millennial generation works really well on feedback. It's just you probably heard this lots of times. And what we want to tell people is constructive feedback is free. In fact, let's take the generation thing out of it. Everyone likes feedback. I don't care how old you are. There's nothing wrong with saying you're doing a great job. And again, constructive feedback is free. It doesn't cost anything. It builds people's confidence. It creates that approaching mentality as you as a mentor. So we talk about that. But other than that, we also talk about how to give feedback. What's the best way of approaching someone to give them feedback? Most people will naturally, if you approach someone and say, are you stupid? Can't you see that? They will right away put their blinders on. They're focusing on the negative information that's coming to them and you attacking their personality. They're not focusing on the task. They're not learning anything. Plus, when you walk away, the whole time now, they're thinking about that feedback, what you said about them. 80% of their attention is on that negative moment, 20% is on the task, and if they're working with something like a chop saw, what are the chances they're going to hurt themselves? Quite a bit, right? That's the idea. So we talk about how to give feedback as mentors, the approaches. Simplest one, you probably heard many times, the feedback sandwich. Start positive, correct the issue, end positive. We talk about one-on-one feedback, taking people aside, giving them feedback one-on-one. We talk about a type of feedback, what do you think you did wrong? Let them think on their own. So it's really neat. It shows you different styles of giving feedback, different approaches. And again, you have to assess your audience. Not everybody Not everybody is sensitive that way, but regardless, we want to create a culture where people can give feedback properly and engage properly. Before I move on from that, negative feedback is also a good thing. Negative feedback is a learning opportunity. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for it, but that's a key. There's a place for it. It's not always. Step 6, assessing progress. How do we assess progress in schools? Sorry, was it?
Evaluation.
Evaluations. I heard something else. Testing, quizzes. We can't do that on a job site. Imagine going to a job site trying to create quizzes for your friends. It's just not going to happen. We're all laughing. It's just not going to happen. But what we could do, we can, if again, it's up to you how much you care as a mentor. And we're going to talk about ROIs and values in a second. If you care about that person or your group, you can do it bi-weekly, bi-monthly, where you can take someone aside. It takes maybe 3 minutes to 5 minutes and talk about all those feedbacks you've been given. Help them, talk about just the way that they treat people. That's important. We watched a video by Mentorship Alliance. One of the apprentices, when he was thanking his mentor, it's a video you have to watch online, Google it, Mentorship Alliance. He says, "Thank you for teaching me how to treat people." That was really neat. I mean, I don't know, nobody signed up for that when they became Journey people, but that's really neat. That's really cool. It's building relationships. So let's talk about ROIs. Most unions are having problems with getting people in, getting apprentices to come in. Most unions are having problems with retention. I think our hall has been doing good. We're sitting around 95% retention, starting from pre-apprenticeship, completing their apprenticeship. Not all trades are lucky. There are reality of clean trades and dirty trades. There are issues with that. We figure that with Mentorship Matters, you can have an ROI for everybody. The apprentices will gain, the return on investment for apprentices are, you will have the tools that will help you become successful in the next 5 years, to know as much as possible from the people you're working with, by using your language and communication skills. Gain their respect, so that in order to want to teach you. Because let's be serious, if you ran into me in a coffee shop and say, "Hey Fahrid, I saw you at that conference," and I turned my back on you, like whatever, you're not going to engage me again. Isn't that true? So you're only going to engage the people that want to engage you. So the ROI for the apprentices is that. The ROI for the mentors, depending on the age group, is it your pension? Is it your union? Is it your trade? Is it your city? Is it your, what is it? Do you just care about the person you're working with? Figure that out. Whatever works for you, you need to start passing on that knowledge down to the apprentices. Most unions will tell you the ROI is keeping the union strong, making sure it exists. And that's pretty much what it is for us. So let's talk about why Mentorship Matters. These numbers are Canadian. It doesn't matter. Take those times them by 10 for the United States. 30 million people in Canada, 300 million people in the United States. It's around the same thing. We got 250,000 people retiring in Canada in the next 10 years. We got the same amount of number coming in the next 10 years. We got 1.3% of the population that will change employment. Already at our training center, we have had engineers, art students, science students. We have an RCMP member that retired, decided to get into the trades. So you can notice it's changing. The industry is changing. There are a couple of issues with that. One is the new industry, the new type of people that are coming in. They've been to university. They've worked in different professions. They're not going to respond well under that pressure. The old school way of working is just shut up and do it. They just don't. They won't take that. Second issue is that 10-year mark. We got people that are retiring and leaving in the next 5 to 10 years. That's how much time they have to make sure we take their information and pass it on. I mentioned earlier, we had a job in North Van where we brought a guy who was 75 out of retirement to run the high voltage group because we had no one in our local that was not busy, that wasn't working. That's an issue with our union. That's a problem. Now you have to go get someone out of retirement to get to come to the job site. So this is what we're talking about. So why? Well, 80% of our training gets on the job site. 80% of apprenticeship training gets done on the job site. Think about that. 20% gets done in the classroom. That's usually the theory. So if you have a workforce that don't communicate well, if you have a workforce that doesn't want to teach, doesn't want to engage, it's like playing a game of telephone. Anyone played a game of telephone before? What's going to happen to that message 2, 3, 5 years down the road? Distorted. In fact, it's happening right now. I thought I was a great pipe bender when I was in the field. I really thought I was good. Then I came to the training center and I realized the massive math that goes behind it and how much things I didn't know. Now I can blame everyone. I'm not going to partially it's my fault as well. I didn't reach out. But the idea is you learn hands-on. And if you're not having that proper communication, you're going to miss all the opportunities. What I did is I added a video here. So again, we have two types of videos on the course. There are the interviews with apprentices, mentors, and contractors, and then there's the demonstration videos. This is an interview video, just a sample to see what we were looking at and what we were trying to get to.
Well, what makes a good mentor is somebody that's got experience with the task, but also an ability to communicate and understand what the learner is able to do and what they're not able to do.
They're hardworking individuals that are willing to help other people. I guess a good mentor would be would have to be pretty patient, I think.
Well, leadership is a big part of it, and clarity is also a big part of it.
Being there to answer questions and being able to give feedback to the worker so that they understand exactly what it is they're doing right and what they're doing wrong.
Definitely have to have a positive attitude, not a negative attitude.
I feel that effective mentors that I've had, what they've done is from the word go, they really created an open environment, one where I felt that I could ask questions and I wasn't going to be judged.
And I have a bricklayer what I'm working with today, and he teaches me throughout the day, every half an hour to every 10 minutes, and maybe constantly he's telling you something.
They took the time whenever there was time to do things like take me around and show me things that I wasn't capable of doing yet. But they still explained how my small role fit into the whole thing and explained the next level.
A lot of good stuff in there, but I like what Aaron said there. His mentor, right from the word go, created a situation where he's approachable, he could ask questions, he's not going to feel stupid. That would be great. If you have a job site that you can go to people and ask them questions whenever you come up with one, and they're more than happy to answer you, you're going to tend to build your confidence. They're going to be much more approachable. You're going to do better. You're going to be safer. That's usually a common goal. So what I did is I added a few of the slides of the program in there so we can kind of go over it. If you guys remember, step one of communication for apprentices was effective communication. So we talk about what is effective communication. We chat about two-way communication. Let's talk about why it's important. If you got proper effective communication, if you got proper two-way communication on a job site, you're naturally going to have better safety records. Your productivity is going to go up. Happier workers are going to produce more. And then the last one, quality. What are we talking about when we say quality? Help me out. What quality do you think is going to improve?
Quality control, I mean, reworks and things like that. Right?
Sure, that's usually the number one answer, and that's really important. What about another quality? What does the picture show you there?
Relationships.
Relationships, that's also important. Quality of work is really important. I mean, contractors have to make money, that makes sense. Relationships is important. If you have a workplace where everyone is happy to go to work, where you spend 40 hours together happy, I mean, it's great. That's where your productivity is going to go up. I don't know about you, when I was at aerospace in Vancouver, I worked for a guy I won't name, but I remember it was hell for me, going to work every day, and same with the crew, nobody would talk to each other. It was just his approach. This guy's body language was like this, shoe tongues are hanging out. He would tell you he's always looking for to rip somebody a new one, and he would come around the corner in front of other trades. You can only imagine the feel on the site. So quality is important in many ways. There's quality of apprenticeship. If you really care about the trade, building the apprentices, the quality of people you're going to actually grow while you're mentoring them, quality of the work, quality of the job, and then quality of the actual workplace. There's our two-way communication. We talked about eye contact. Listening, nodding, but also responding, paraphrasing, making sure that I understood exactly what you asked for, and I'm going to give you that exact same thing. I'm going to play you a video later on that really puts this into perspective between an apprentice and mentor as a demonstration. We'll come back to it. But then more importantly, let's talk about verbal and nonverbal cues. This is really neat. I love this little simple slide because it really puts it in perspective. Imagine I show up to your site, me and my twin brother, and I don't have a twin brother, but let's say I had a twin brother. We both showed up on our site. And you asked me and my twin brother, Fahrid, you're going to go grab those conduits and take it to the third floor. Fahrid's twin brother, you're going to grab those couplings and couplers and take it to the fourth floor. Fahrid will say, yes, I'll take care of that, no problem. My twin brother will say, yeah, you always make me do the hard work. They both said yes, didn't they? Which one's going to be more successful, me or my twin brother? You. This was a hard question, guys. But that's it. Look at it. Look at the body language. 55% of the verbal and nonverbal because of body language and voice and tone. They both said yes. But naturally, as mentors, we're only going to engage people that want to engage us. If their body language says I'm not interested, you know, if they just kind of looks kind of lazy, they have bad attitude, you're naturally going to engage, not going to engage them. What do you think is going to happen to those people? They naturally get laid off. They become a cycle in the hall, and nobody wants to confront that or actually write to the hall, to the union, what's the problem? They said, this poor apprentice will go in a circle without anyone ever confronting them, telling them, you know, hey, you need to change your attitude, you need to change your body language, you need to understand the weight of your facial expression, gesture, eye contact, using up your personal space and the tone of voice when you're responding. Excuse me. Again, it's all about building relationships. It is your apprenticeship. Sorry, I'm a little sick here. You're trying to gain the respect of your mentors in order to get as much knowledge as you can from them before you move on to the next site. That's really what it is. You don't have to like them. They're not your friends. They know something. They're really good at something. Figure out what that is and get those tasks. Learn from them. So here's that video I was talking about, two-way communication. I want you to focus on Jamie, the apprentice. Watch what she does when she engages her mentor, and then we'll talk about the big picture.
Hey Jamie, can you hand me a tip cleaner?
Sure.
I asked for a tip cleaner, not a wire brush.
So I know we can also talk about the mentor, his approach. We don't know what the whole situation is. We don't know if he's naturally approachable, if he's just a grump. But let's just focus on Jamie. What didn't Jamie do?
She didn't ask what it was.
She didn't ask what it was. She just kind of guessed and gave that tool. Now let's create a real scenario, because when we were creating this, you know, it was easy to do it on a table. On a real job site in the state of Washington, Vancouver, BC, we usually work on towers. So most times, commercial building with towers. Now, if I ask my apprentice to grab a tool, most likely I'm, you know, on the subfloor up, and the tool is going to be in P1 of the tool shed. If they have to use a hoist, I can guarantee you they're gone for 30 minutes minimum, if not 40. Because that hoist is being used to carry many things up and down the building. It's not like an elevator, you call it. You say what floor you're on, it's a one-way speaker, and you gotta hope they're gonna come pick you up. So now, Jamie went all the way to P1, grabbed the wrong tool, and I heard side note from another apprentice that said, I brought 5 tools. And I'm like, man, you better be, you know, hope that one of them's right, because that would be the worst. But if Jamie goes all the way down to P1, brings the wrong tool, the mentor who has enough experience, they're thinking now, right as soon as they see the wrong tool, they're thinking, that's another 40 minutes wasted. What do you think they're gonna act like?
Oh, curious.
They're gonna be furious, they're gonna be frustrated. And again, we could blame the mentor. Maybe they should have assessed the apprentice more. You know, why they don't know the tools. We don't know the big picture. But right now we're focusing, this is a portion of the communication book. We're saying you can't control your mentors and who they are. You're not going out there and saying, hey, you need to change yourself as a mentor, okay? That's not what you're gonna do. You're gonna only control your approach and what you can get. From now on, if you don't know, just straight up say, excuse me guys, I don't know, you need to tell me what that is. Now, what if that mentor is not approachable? What do you do then? We talked about this earlier. What if, ask somebody else, start practicing that. You know, there are people that are not approachable, that's fine, talk to somebody else. So let's watch Jamie turn that around.
Hey Jamie, can you hand me a tip cleaner, please?
Sure. Can you explain to me what a tip cleaner is, what it does?
Sure, no problem. This is the tip cleaner here, and it's used to clean the inside of the torch.
Thanks.
I would say that there's 2 things here. One, you want to make it clear to the apprentice what they're going to learn. And at the end, actually tell them what they did learn again. And get feedback from them to see if they actually did learn it.
Perfect. All right, the final part, setting goals. I decided to choose this one because I told you earlier this was really important. I wish this was around when I was starting my apprenticeship. But again, we were trying to figure out how to get our apprentices to start becoming more responsible. How are we going to get them to change their attitude? We figured we're going to make it personal. We started talking about benefits of setting goals. You know, how does it feel? You know, you guys are all sitting in this room. I'm sure most people here accomplished something, a special goal to them at one point. How does it feel when you accomplish that goal?
Self-esteem goes up.
Self-esteem goes up. I heard that. And it builds your confidence. That's the idea. Goals build your confidence. You feel good. You come up with new goals. You hit your new goals. You're going to come up with new goals. And you keep doing that. It's a nice, vicious, funny circle. It improves safety on the job site. It improves on-job success because you're going to have a crew that has a mission. Their mission is whatever their goals are. Overall, they're going to care. They want to come to learn. They want to come to learn for their own good, for their own ROI. And that's okay. That's what we want. So that's why we attack this. Again, responsibility and attitude. If I tell my apprentice, stop sitting like this and putting his leg on the table when you're in the classroom, he's not going to care. But if I sell him on the fact that, hey, I know something that I can teach you, and it's up to you if you're going to get that information from me because, hey, you ever thought of becoming a contractor? You ever thought of becoming an inspector? If something rings a bell with them, hopefully they come around. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every class we taught, they walked away and they were amazing, because that's impossible. But when we started this 8 years ago, I remember walking in those classrooms, people coming late, because, who's going to want to come to a communication class on a Saturday for 4 hours, What are they trying to tell me? Teach me how to talk, soft skill. 4 years down the road, it became the norm. It's part of the apprenticeship. That's going to happen when you go into the apprenticeship. Stickers everywhere, posters everywhere, we're promoting it all over to our contractors. Whole different attitude. The message on the site was better. It is for them. It's not about somebody's insurance policy, as usual, the comments you get from people that don't understand. It's for you. It's for you to figure out what's important to you. So then you're going to come around and get those details from me, and then we'll, win-win for both parties. So then we came up with these two little pages. Again, there's a lot of other types of workshops. These are the two that we thought was really important. We ask our apprentices to start assessing themselves. Assess yourself. You're the person that knows yourself best. When you read these information on responsibility and attitude, do they relate to you? Do you put never, sometimes, and always? When I run this classroom, I usually get them to think these through. I don't want them to write it. I don't want them to write answers in front of their peers because that's never a good thing either. If you find a value to this, maybe go home and put check marks on it to create goals for yourself. Again, we teach them as part of this course how to set goals, how to put milestones, how to get the information. We talk about priorities. We talk about your realistic goals, goals that are in your control, not other people's control. But at the end of the day, you really got to look at these and assess yourself. And I'd be surprised there's someone in this room, other than Phil Davis back there, that can put always to these two lists. Because most of us need something to work on to become better, right? That's the idea. Anyway, that really concludes the actual Mentorship Matters program. The Mentorship Matters program, the way it works, it's a 4-hour module for each one. 4 hours for communication, 4 hours for mentoring. In our local, we put in through about 2,000 apprentices now, 1,800, 2,000 apprentices. We've been very successful. We have grabbed attention of our contractors to a point where one of them from Mott decided to sit through the program just to see what it's about. Then they got their journeyman and foreman to go through the program. So that says a lot about the program. Excuse me. So now with the Canadian initiative, we have SRDC that's doing surveys for the next 2-3 years. They're 30 pages, they're intense. In about 1.5 years, 2 years, we can actually see if mentorship does help with safety, productivity, and quality. And that's when I can come up with solid answers for you. Right now, if anyone's interested, I can put you in contact with many different organizations that are taking these and see what they say, if it's helping them. Earlier, we had a gentleman from Sound Transit that was here, Mark Mueller, who he says they've had 4.7 stars out of 5 for their feedback. We have the same type of results in our local. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not an easy program to roll out because you're going to get a pushback from your membership. That's usually normal, soft skills. It's not a technical course, but it's a long-term plan. It should be like a 10-year plan. It's not going to change right away. You're focusing on your new generation apprentices coming in and how they're going to mentor, in 10 years, the other new generation that's going in. Any questions I can answer?
How much does it cost?
Sorry?
How much does it cost?
Good question. So we have a trainer-trainer model where either myself or one of my colleagues will come down to your organization, training center, company, and we run both of these in about 9 hours. It's $500 per individual for your training. Once that's done, each one of these workbooks are about $55, and if you do bulk orders, they can go down to $43 US per workbook. We do customization. If you want pictures of your trades on here, if you want your logo, we'll do customizations of your organization as well as part of the package. Another thing we do is quarterly we'll send a Zoom email to our clients, and we go on there for an hour and try to make sure they're on point. If they have any questions, if they're missing something, basically customer service, make sure they have all the right information to be successful. Another portion that we're really excited about, we have an app coming out in the new year. Right now it's in the beta version. The app is supposed to basically help our apprentices and our mentors to constantly use this information. We don't want them to come to a classroom and then not use the information a year from now. It will take a lot from the unions and the companies to actually implement the app, but if they understand the value of productivity, safety, and the quality, it shouldn't be an issue. It's been so far great in Canada. Yes?
I was just wondering if you have any classes that are scheduled, any group classes. I talked to Sheena about implementing this, and she's basically, you gotta coordinate with the group, and so I'm just wondering if you have anything.
We have actually, I'm actually working with Shanna to come up with a date in January. I just gave her 4 dates, so there'll be 100% in January. And there's one happening this week actually in Vancouver, but we are doing one in Seattle in January. And you're from Seattle, right? Or Washington? Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably the one she was talking about.
Yes.
And you talked about train the trainer.
Yes.
So once the person sits through the trainer, they sit through the trainer, then they can train their trainers?
No. So I know it gets really muddy. So they become trainers for their organization, but if they ever need to train more trainers, that's when we come out and we run them through it. So there's another model available if you want to know. If you want us to come and train your workforce, we can do that. It tends to be very expensive. I don't like it as much either because I'm an electrician. I can speak that language while I'm going through all the actual exercises on here, but if I'm teaching a different trade, it's tough to kind of, stay on point. We find it's best for your trainers to train their own workforce. So we come and we talk about the best practices. I share all the experiences we've had, good feedback, bad feedback, the questions that comes up in the classroom, even in trainers and through our apprentices and mentors, and that's what we usually talk about as part of the trainer. And then they go on and train their workforce. Yes.
Have you, so I thought you were from Michigan. Are you based in Washington now? Or?
No, I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada, but I was in Michigan last week. Yeah.
Okay.
It's my second home. I go there quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just on your bio, so I thought that. So have you reached out to any of the organizations, the trade organizations? Because it may make sense for smaller businesses like us to enroll people as a group effort, like through ABC or ABC or any of those organizations, or are you specific to? Everyone
and anyone. We think this is important for everyone. We don't care what it is that your goal is outside of this mentorship managed training. We're there to help you become better. That's the idea. So we go out to a lot of seminars. We do send a message around, and we meet people like yourself. We're doing our best. Yeah, but we can definitely we can definitely help you with that. Yes. And then if you guys, if you like mentorship matters, this is a quick presentation. But if you want us to do a presentation for your team, for your organization, my business card is here. I haven't touched it, so you won't get sick from me. So I apologize, I'm struggling, but you can pick that up. Let me know. We'll set up a presentation for you. It's usually about an hour and 15 minutes. If you have any other questions that will formalize in the next few hours, the next day, we can definitely answer it as well. Anything else? Did you see our new videos?
You talking to me?
Yes.
I was going to say something to you afterwards too. I loved it. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
And I know this was from your feedback, just so you know.
It's true.
Some of our videos are 8 years old. So when we initially went out there, people thought we don't care about diversity. I'm Middle Eastern, and my colleague, we have women in there, we have all sorts of cultures and different, backgrounds. So we decided to update our videos. We are working on that. They're fairly expensive, but we have a budget. We're creating budgets, so you're going to see a lot more new videos coming up with diversity as well. So anyway, just something in case you heard something outside. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate you coming.